Most of the world is open to exploration, but some places remain deliberately closed. Not because they are hidden, but because entering them carries lasting consequences. Shaped by disaster, conflict, or fragile survival, these locations exist beyond public reach. This is a look at 15 of the world's most forbidden exclusion zones. The vast majority of the world is freely explorable, but there are some places on Earth where entry is highly forbidden. It's time to travel the world to reveal the places that very few people are able to set foot. Join me as we take a look at 15 of the most forbidden exclusion zones. Number 15. Zone Rouge, France. Zone Rouge, or the Red Zone, is a term used to describe a region in northeastern France that was severely impacted by World War I. The area, which covers roughly 463 square miles or about 1,200 square kilometers, was heavily bombarded and fought over during the conflict, resulting in significant damage to the landscape and infrastructure, as well as the loss of countless lives. The French government established the Zone Rouge in 1919, following the end of the war, as a way to protect the public from unexploded ordnance and other hazards that remained in the area. It was determined that the danger was so great that the land should be left untouched and unused for years to come. Today, Zone Rouge is a desolate and eerie place, with much of the land still cordoned off to the public. The landscape is scarred by the craters left by artillery shells, and the ruins of destroyed buildings and trenches are still visible. Nature has slowly begun to reclaim the area, though, with trees and other vegetation taking root in the debris left behind by the war. Despite this danger, some people have ventured into Zone Rouge over the years, including treasure hunters searching for buried war relics and curious tourists looking to explore the area. The French government has worked to discourage such activity, though, warning of the potential risks and imposing fines on those caught entering these restricted zones. Number 14. East Ural Radioactive Trace, Russia. The Mayak Production Association is a nuclear facility located near the town of Ozersk, in the southern Ural Mountains of Russia. It was established in 1948 as part of the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons program and played a significant role in the production of nuclear materials during the Cold War. In 1957, Mayak experienced one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, when a storage tank holding high-level radioactive waste exploded, contaminating a vast area around the facility. The disaster was kept secret for many years, and the full extent of contamination and its impact on the environment and human health is still not fully understood. The contaminated area around Mayak, known as the Eastern Ural Radioactive Trace, was designated as an exclusion zone soon after the disaster, and is strictly off-limits to the public, with access heavily restricted not just to protect human health, but to also keep secret any remaining details of the incident and how it happened. Restrictions are in place over more than 64 square miles or 166 square kilometers of land, and the region is now overseen by Rosatom, the Russian Nuclear Energy Corporation. Seen as a radiation reserve, one field of particular interest is how the radiation has affected the development of a wide range of animal species in the area, and as one of the oldest sites of a significant nuclear disaster, how well nature has been recovering in the decades since it took place. Number 13. Montserrat Exclusion Zone. Montserrat is a British overseas territory in the Caribbean Sea, known for its dormant volcano and the Soufriere Hills. In 1995, the volcano erupted, causing significant damage to the island and leading to the evacuation of 2/3 of its population, most of whom were taken to the UK. To protect residents and visitors from the dangers of volcanic activity, the Montserrat Exclusion Zone was established. The zone covers the southern part of the island, including the former capital city of Plymouth, which was destroyed by the eruption, and access to this exclusion zone is strictly limited to authorized personnel only, with the area being closely monitored by the Montserrat Volcano Observatory. While the exclusion zone is off-limits to the public, it covers more than half the total landmass of the island, so isn't exactly well enforced, meaning some people have ventured into the area, including journalists, scientists, and tourists. The Montserrat Volcano Observatory offers guided tours of the exclusion zone, providing visitors with a unique perspective on the aftermath of the volcanic eruption in the care of an expert. The exclusion zone is home to a range of natural features, including geothermal fields, hot springs, and mud pools, and it's possible to see the ruins of Plymouth, too, which remain buried beneath the layers of ash and lava like a modern-day Pompeii. The zone serves as a reminder of the power of nature and the need to take steps to protect ourselves from its danger. While the volcano remains dormant, the potential for future eruptions remains, and it plays a vital role in ensuring the safety of those living on and visiting the island. Number 12. The Korean DMZ, North and South Korea. The Korean Demilitarized Zone is a strip of land that runs across the Korean peninsula, separating North and South Korea. The DMZ was established at the end of the Korean War in 1953 as part of the armistice agreement between North Korea and the United Nations Command, which was signed by the military commanders of North Korea, China, and the United States. The DMZ is approximately 160 miles or about 257 kilometers long and about 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers wide, and it is one of the most heavily militarized borders in the world. Both sides of the DMZ are lined with barbed wire, minefields, and military checkpoints, with the area being patrolled by armed soldiers, and both North Korea and South Korea have artillery and missile systems aimed at each other. The DMZ is not completely demilitarized, despite its name. Rather, it is a heavily fortified buffer zone that separates the two Koreas and serves as a symbolic reminder of the ongoing conflict. The area is also home to a variety of wildlife, including endangered species such as the Amur leopard and the Korean tiger, which are protected by both sides. Although tensions between North Korea and South Korea have eased somewhat in recent years, the DMZ remains a highly sensitive area. There are occasional skirmishes and incidents along the border, too, and both sides maintain a constant state of readiness in case of a military conflict. Even with this tense atmosphere, the DMZ is also a popular tourist destination, with thousands of visitors each year. It is possible to take guided tours of the DMZ, including stops at observation posts, tunnels, and other landmarks, but due to the ongoing military presence in the area, access is strictly limited, and visitors are subject to strict security checks and must comply with strict regulations. Number 11. The United Nations Buffer Zone, Cyprus. The United Nations Buffer Zone in Cyprus, also known as the Green Line, is a demilitarized zone that separates the island of Cyprus into two parts. The Republic of Cyprus in the south and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus in the north. The buffer zone was established in 1964 following violent fighting between the Greek Cypriot and the Turkish Cypriot communities, which led to the UN Security Council passing a resolution calling for the creation of a peacekeeping force to restore order and establish a ceasefire between the two communities. The buffer zone was created as a result of that effort and has been monitored by the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus ever since. The buffer zone is approximately 112 miles or about 180 kilometers long and varies in width from a few feet to several miles. It runs through the center of the island from the east coast to the west coast and is heavily patrolled by troops, and access is restricted to civilians. The buffer zone is marked by barbed wire, fences, and warning signs of landmines, and is also dotted with abandoned buildings and military installations that are remnants of the 1974 Turkish invasion of Cyprus. The Green Line serves as a physical reminder of the ongoing conflict between the Greek Cypriot and the Turkish Cypriot communities and how, despite numerous attempts to resolve the issue, the island remains divided. Number 10. The Frontier Closed Area, Hong Kong. The Frontier Closed Area is a restricted zone that spans along the border between Hong Kong and China. It was first established in 1951 by the British colonial government in response to the outbreak of the Korean War, and it was intended to prevent smuggling and the unauthorized entry of refugees from China. The FCA covers an area of approximately 11 square miles, or about 28 square kilometers, and it's made up of rural villages, forests, and farmland. Access to the region is heavily restricted, and only authorized personnel are allowed to enter the area. It's patrolled by Hong Kong police and customs officers, and a fence and security cameras have been installed along the perimeter to prevent unauthorized access. Ever since opening, though, it's been somewhat of a controversial topic in Hong Kong, with some people criticizing it as a violation of human rights and an infringement on the rights of local villagers who live within the zone. Many residents of the FCA have complained about the inconvenience and disruption caused by the restrictions on movement and access to basic services. Despite these concerns, though, the FCA has remained in place for over 70 years, and it continues to play an important role in maintaining the border between Hong Kong and China. The FCA has been effective in preventing smuggling and illegal immigration, and it's helped to maintain the security and stability of the region, particularly now as since Hong Kong was returned to China. It still operates under a different legal system, and there have been difficulties in fully integrating it with the mainland. Number 9. The Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, Ukraine. The Chernobyl Exclusion Zone is a 19-mile or 30-kilometer wide area around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Ukraine, where a catastrophic nuclear disaster happened on April 26, 1986. The zone is one of the most heavily contaminated places in the world, and it's been abandoned since the disaster, with the exception of a few hundred workers who maintain the plant and monitor the situation. The Chernobyl disaster was caused by a combination of human error, faulty design, and a lack of safety measures. The explosion and subsequent fire released massive amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating a large area around the plant and causing widespread health and environmental damage. In the aftermath of the disaster, the Soviet government established the exclusion zone to restrict access to the contaminated area and prevent further contamination, with the zone encompassing several towns and villages, including the city of Pripyat, which was home to over 50,000 people at the time of the incident. Today, the exclusion zone is a desolate and strange place, with abandoned buildings and overgrown streets. The radiation levels there are still high, and visitors are required to wear protective clothing and adhere to strict safety protocols. Despite the ever-present risks, there are still a few hundred people who continue to live and work within the exclusion zone, including scientists, workers at the plant, and only a handful of elderly residents who refuse to leave their homes. The Ukrainian government had also recently opened the zone for limited and controlled tourism, but with the Russian military action in the country now, the exclusion zone is now being strictly enforced once again. Number 8. Ceuta border fence, Spain, Morocco. The Ceuta border fence is a 12.5-mile or 20-kilometer long barrier that runs along the border between Morocco and the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. Built in the early 2000s as a measure to prevent undocumented migrants and smugglers from entering Spain through the enclave, it's actually made up of two parallel fences that are up to 20 feet or 6 meters tall, which effectively create a no-man's land between them that has the occasional watchpost and road to access police and medical services. The Ceuta border fence has been a controversial topic since its construction. Critics argue that the fence is a symbol of Europe's increasingly restrictive immigration policies and a violation of human rights. The fence has also been criticized for the injuries and deaths that have occurred as a result of migrants attempting to climb it. Despite the controversy, the fence has been effective in reducing the number of undocumented migrants entering Spain through Ceuta. In the years before the fence was built, thousands of migrants would attempt to cross the border every year, often risking their safety in the process. Today, the number of attempted crossings has significantly decreased, so it's seen as a success based solely on its effectiveness at preventing crossings. It's not 100% effective, though, and with the suspicion being that it's encouraged migrants to take alternative, more dangerous routes instead, there's still a strong argument that border fences like this are far from being an ethical solution to the issues of mass migration. Number 7. The Diomede Islands, United States, Russia. The Diomede Islands, consisting of Big Diomede in Russia and Little Diomede in the United States, are located in the Bering Strait and are separated by the International Date Line. These remote islands have a history of political tensions between the United States and Russia due to their strategic location near the Russian mainland and their proximity to Alaska during the Cold War. The two islands became a symbol of the intense rivalry between the superpowers. The Soviet Union fortified Big Diomede, which is located only about 2.5 miles or about 4 kilometers from Little Diomede, with military installations, and the United States used Little Diomede as a strategic listening post to monitor Soviet activity. Even today, tensions between Russia and the United States persist, and access to the islands remains limited. Only residents and authorized personnel are permitted to visit the islands, and travel to and from the islands is highly restricted. Visitors are able to require special permits and go through rigorous security checks before they can be allowed anywhere close. Furthermore, the two countries have different policies regarding tourism in the region. Russia prohibits tourism to Big Diomede, while the United States allows a limited number of visitors to Little Diomede, subject to strict security procedures, of course. The restrictions on travel to the islands have contributed to their mystique and have made them so popular as a destination for adventure travelers. However, the limitations on access also reflect the geopolitical tensions that continue to exist between Russia and the United States, and the strategic importance of the islands should relations worsen. Number 6. Polshi State Radioecological Reserve, Belarus. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster famously required the creation of the Chernobyl exclusion zone in Ukraine, but the deadly cloud of radiation also traveled across the border into Belarus, where there is another exclusion zone because of the incident, the Polshi State Radioecological Reserve. It was established in 1988 and is considered one of the most contaminated areas in the world, spanning over 772 square miles or 2,000 square kilometers of land and water, including forests, marshes, and rivers. It serves as a crucial habitat for a wide array of wildlife, including a number of rare and endangered species. The reserve also has a rich cultural history too, with several ancient archaeological sites and historical landmarks. The primary goal of the reserve is to protect the local environment and wildlife from the harmful effects of radiation. Staff regularly monitor radiation levels and work to prevent further contamination, while continuing to conduct research on the long-term effects of radiation on the environment and the wildlife. Because of this, only authorized personnel are allowed to enter, not just to prevent needless health complications, but to prevent humans from interfering with what's turning out to be a unique experiment. Number 5. The Iraq-Kuwait Barrier. The Iraq-Kuwait Barrier, also known as the Kuwait-Iraq border fence, is a physical barrier that runs along the border between Iraq and Kuwait, of course. It's one of the largest and most sophisticated border barriers in the world, stretching for over 120 miles or about 190 kilometers along the entire border between Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf, and stretches 6 miles or 9.7 kilometers into Iraq and 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers into Kuwait. The barrier was constructed in response to the First Gulf War in 1991, when Iraq invaded Kuwait. After the war, the United Nations mandated that Iraq must demarcate and demilitarize its border with its neighbors. The barrier was designed to prevent any future invasions or infiltrations. This barrier is made up of a combination of fences, trenches, and walls, as well as thermal and motion sensors, cameras, and other surveillance equipment. It's designed to be impenetrable, with multiple layers of security and detection systems. The barrier is manned by Kuwaiti security forces and supported by international troops, who will shoot on sight anyone found to be within the exclusion zone. The construction of the barrier was a significant undertaking, involving multiple contractors and an enormous amount of resources. It was completed in 2006 and cost an estimated $1.3 billion. The barrier has been largely successful in achieving its aim. However, there have been some incidents where the barrier was breached, such as in 2014 when militants from the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria crossed into Kuwait. Despite this, though, the barrier remains an essential tool for maintaining the security and stability of the region, and it will be in place for many years to come. Number 4. The Finland-Russia border, Finland-Russia. The Finland-Russia border is an 833-mile or 1,340-kilometer-long boundary that separates Finland from the Russian Federation. The border is mostly marked by rivers and lakes, and it's one of the longest land borders in the European Union. The border is unusual in that it has the exclusion zone, which is an area of land on the Russian side of the border that's close to the public and strictly controlled by the Russian authorities. This zone was established by the Russian government in the aftermath of the Second World War as a way to secure the country's border with Finland. The area is located in the Russian Karelia region and covers an area of approximately 7,700 square miles or about 20,000 square kilometers. The exclusion zone is mainly made up of dense forest and is home to a variety of wildlife, including bears, wolves, and lynx, as well as containing several military bases and training facilities that are off-limits to the public. Access to the exclusion zone is highly restricted, and visitors must obtain special permits from the Russian government in order to enter. These permits are typically only granted to scientific researchers, military personnel, or other authorized officials. The strict controls on access to the exclusion zone have led to suggestions that the area may be used for secret military or scientific experiments, but the Russian government has denied these claims and insists that it's simply a necessary security measure. Number 3. Surtsey Island, Iceland. Surtsey Island is a volcanic island located off the southern coast of Iceland. It was formed during a volcanic eruption that lasted from 1963 to 1967 and is one of the world's youngest islands. As a result, it's known for its pristine and untouched environment, as well as for its restrictions on who can visit the island. Surtsey was declared a national reserve by the Icelandic government shortly after its formation in 1967, and since then, access to the island has been strictly controlled. Only a few researchers and scientists are allowed to visit the island, and they must obtain special permits from the government to do so. The restrictions on access are in place to protect the island's unique environment and prevent human interference with its natural processes. It's home to a variety of plant and animal species that are not found anywhere else in Iceland, and the lack of human presence has allowed these species to thrive, with the island now considered an important site for research into the evolution of plant and animal life. It is also, of course, of great interest to volcanologists who continue to study the process that led to its formation. In addition to its scientific value, the island has become a symbol of environmental conservation, with strict controls on access to the island serving as a reminder of the importance of preserving natural environments and the need to limit human impact on fragile ecosystems. Number 2. Fukushima Exclusion Zone, Japan. The Fukushima Exclusion Zone is an area in Japan that was evacuated after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011 that was caused when a powerful earthquake and subsequent tsunami caused a series of nuclear meltdowns at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The exclusion zone was established in the wake of the disaster to prevent people from being exposed to the high levels of radiation that were released and to limit the number of casualties. It covers an area of around 386 square miles, or 1,000 square kilometers, and includes several towns and villages in the Fukushima prefecture. The zone is divided into 3 different areas based on the level of radiation present, with the most heavily contaminated area known as the difficult-to-return zone having radiation levels that are so high that it is unlikely that people will be able to return to their homes for decades. Access to the Fukushima exclusion zone is highly restricted, and only a number of people are allowed to enter the zone for specific purposes, such as decontamination work or scientific research. The Japanese government has established a series of checkpoints around the perimeter of the exclusion zone to prevent unauthorized entry, and there are strict rules covering the protective clothing that must be worn by anyone on site and the need to carry dosimeters to measure their exposure. Despite these controls, there have been reports of illegal entry by thrill seekers and journalists looking to document the aftermath of the disaster. The Japanese government has warned that entering the area without permission is illegal and dangerous, and those who are caught will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Number 1. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands, India. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands, located in the Bay of Bengal off the southeastern tip of India, are a group of 572 islands that are home to diverse flora and fauna, including endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. The islands are also home to several indigenous tribes, some of whom have never had any contact with the outside world. The islands' fragile ecosystems and the tribes' unique way of life have led the Indian government to impose visitor restrictions on these islands. The restrictions are aimed at protecting the island's natural resources and the tribe's cultures and customs. The exclusion zone covers a significant part of the islands and includes several areas where the tribes are known to reside. The authorities have implemented strict guidelines for the visitors to the islands to ensure they don't enter the restricted areas, and visitors who violate these guidelines are subject to fines and legal actions. The exclusion zone is essential to protect the indigenous tribe's way of life. Contact with the outside world can lead to spread of diseases and cultural disruption, and recent unauthorized attempts to make contact have resulted in violent responses by the islanders, who have no interest in relations with the outside world. It's best that they're left to live their lives how they see fit, and this protected area enables them to do that. These exclusion zones are not empty spaces, but carefully controlled ones. Each exists to contain danger, preserve life, or protect what cannot be replaced. They remind us that access is not always a right, and curiosity is not always harmless. Sometimes, the safest and most responsible choice is to stay away.